Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome again to Snacks Thoughts. I say welcome again to Snacks Thoughts. And what is my thought for the day on this Memorial Day weekend? Well, I was discussing with a friend about a day or two ago about a certain variable that can make the difference in determining the outcome of an event or a person's life. And what I call that is I call it the X factor. So the name of this podcast on Snacks Thoughts is going to be called the X Factor. Now, I'm quite sure many of you have heard of this term, the X Factor. You know, whether it's through the TV show or, certain terminology, that you might read, maybe in Wikipedia or certain glossaries. But this right here is my thoughts on what the X Factor is. The X Factor is the unknown variable that determines the outcome of individuals' life experiences or an event. The X Factor. That's right. And many times we've seen the X Factor played out in different scenarios. Some scenarios could be, say, sports championships. And you may have a team that is competing in a certain sport. And it could be maybe that one player that makes the difference in them winning or losing. It could be that one bad call from the referee that changes the outcome of that game. Or it can even be certain unexpected things such as maybe injuries that could determine the outcome of how that championship series goes. Now, the X Factor works in other areas of life as well. I mean, you can look at it on a global scale. I would think about World War II with Nazi Germany and Hitler. I believe that in Europe's case, or especially like England, I believe that the United States was the X factor that bailed England out from being, from losing and being taken over. That's just, my thoughts on it. But the X Factor, had the Japanese, did they have to bomb Pearl Harbor? Had they never bombed Pearl Harbor, they even stated that they awoke a sleeping giant. And so by bringing the United States, forcing them to enter, into the war, it significantly changed things and it turned the outcome. So there's an X Factor in that event globally. Let's see. Another X factor that I can go with globally is this global pandemic with the coronavirus. Because of this pandemic that they haven't found a cure for, and the way this virus apparently seems to spread or replicate, it's changed things globally in societies and life as we know it. Now, this was something that no one expected. The X factor. Unexpected outcome, but yet and still determining variable that changed the way things turned out. Now, when I look at the X factor, I would say that it can be comparable to an algebraic equation. And if any of you had algebra, I call it the mystery math. It's that math equation where it uses, alphabetic symbols to solve for a particular variable of a math problem. And life is like that. Life, in some sense, can be comparable to actual everyday life because with math, the numbers, they never end. They never end. Now, the difference between math and life is that with math, there's only, in most cases, one outcome. There's only one correct answer in 99% of the cases. With life, there's so many different variables, and with all these billions of individual people that each uniquely different, and just all the different combination of factors in life as we know it, which is it's really complex. But the X factor, if you compare life to algebra, it would be like, okay, 2x plus 2, equals 5. Solve for x. And many times our lives are like that. We are faced with certain challenges or even certain dilemmas, and we have to find a way to solve the problem or find a solution. But the X factor, that certain variable that it could be something small. The X factor even has some of the it factor in it. That one intangible thing that is there, but you can't quite put your finger on what it is. But that it factor, they just got it. It just has it. And that small thing called the X factor oftentimes is what separates winners from losers. It's what separates good from great. The X factor. It's that determining variable that makes a world of difference, and it totally changes the outcome and takes it in one direction or the other. Yes, the X factor. And I'm quite sure all you guys have experienced or are experiencing the X factor in your lives at some point. For me, what was the X factor for me? I would say in my particular case, the X factor for me occurred many years ago when I went to serve in the military. That was the X factor for me, because at that time, between my years from 17 to 21, those were some really rough years. And as a young man, I kind of got caught up, into being had a bad, drug habit, and, my life, wasn't going where it should have been, as a young man at that age. And had not, by the grace of God, some things happened for me to turn that around, I would have been on a very bad course. But when I say the X factor for me was the military, because simply by joining the armed forces, it solved certain issues that I was going through. Number one, first, it was the X factor for me because it got me removed from the troubled environment that I was in. People, places, and things. The things that I was participating in wasn't positive. So it removed me instantly from the environment that I was in. So that's number one. Second part for me, the X factor with the military was that it allowed me to regain my focus, and I instantly had a constructive purpose with some discipline, giving me a purpose and something to do while also being able to earn an income. I had food, shelter, so it wiped out all of the things that I did not have in my former environment prior to the military. Part 3. By joining the military, the X factor for me, it gave me much needed exposure to different people, change of environment, seeing different places and things, and learning from other people that either may have had similar backgrounds to me, and some didn't, but through the exchange of information and being around these different individuals that were positive, it rubbed off on me. Birds of a feather flock together. And so it made a difference in helping me grow as a person. And also through the military, part 4, I became stable. I gained stability. I gained security. I had something secure, income, food, shelter, clothing, health, medical benefits, life insurance, all those basic tangibles also I had a sense of, I had community. When you join the military, you have a community with things that are already structured and set in place for you. So you're not like a lone wolfer, you know? And I'm going to end this video shortly, but the X factor, through it, I was able to utilize some of the benefits to travel, gain my education. Partially, I gained some of it but I followed on with it when I got out with my VA benefits to get my college degree. Wound up getting a master's. GI Bill, voc rehab, the X factor. But had I not gone into the military at that time or that stage in my life, there's no telling what could have happened to me. I could have either wound up dead or either in jail, or I would have really had a rough time, and my life could have took a totally different turn. So the X factor. And lastly, for me, it provided a platform for me to step up and further keep excelling and growing, upwardly mobile. But that's what the X factor is for me. What's your X factor? And I'd like for you to share it, in the comments, please subscribe to Snacks Thoughts. That's SNAKZTHOUGHTS, Snacks Thoughts. Yes, indeed. Share it. Push it out. Share my podcast. And I thank you guys for listening. I also have my YouTube channel, Eric Broadus YouTube. That's ERICBROADUS YouTube, or ericbroadusyoutube.com. So go over there, subscribe to my channel, tap that bell for future subscriptions or any live streams, anything else going on with the channel. And please smash that like button and leave comments over there. I'd love to dialogue with you guys. But that's all I have. And I thank you guys, for listening to me. And I hope you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend. Stay safe, guys, but get out and enjoy yourself. Get some sunlight. Get out, y'all, but just do it safely, all right? That's all I have. Again, the X factor, that variable, that unknown factor or determinant that equals the outcome in a given situation. That's all I got, guys. Thanks for listening. Peace out.